Hi, welcome to this presentation on IBM Spectrum Protect Plus version 10.15 on the Amazon Web Services Marketplace. In this presentation, we're going to cover both the all-in-cloud and the hybrid solutions for these deployments. This offering becomes available on March 25th of 2020, and let's take a look on how you would deploy that and what it brings to your environment. So AWS Marketplace is going to offer the automatic deployment of the Spectrum Protect Plus server and vSnap into the AWS VPC. And this virtual private cloud can either be an existing VPC or a new VPC. And once you have Spectrum Protect Plus running either in this hybrid or all-in-cloud environment, it's going to be able to protect and reuse the application workloads that are running on AWS. So this includes things like DB2, Microsoft SQL, Oracle, MongoDB, Microsoft Exchange Server. And once it's protected these workloads, it can send copies of these snapshots out to even cheaper S3 container storage for long-term retention. And it can also replicate this information with other Spectrum Protect Plus vSnaps. So the vSnap inside of AWS can act as a replication target for an on-premise vSnap. You could basically use Spectrum Protect Plus to replicate out to AWS all of your on-premise workloads. And this would be a great solution in case you had a disaster recovery where you wanted to recover everything back into the cloud, including your Spectrum Protect Plus server. So when we look at the deployment here, we have two pictures. On the left-hand side, you can see the hybrid where the Spectrum Protect Plus server and its own vSnap sits on premise, and it connects out with the vSnap that's protecting the workloads inside of AWS. The second picture shows an all-in-cloud deployment where both the Spectrum Protect Plus server and vSnap are located in the cloud, protecting the database workloads inside of AWS. So this solution gives you enterprise-proven data protection and reuse for these workloads like SQL, Oracle, DB2, MongoDB, and Exchange. It gives you that replication between on-premise and in-cloud vSnaps, and it gives you the ability to easily offload those vSnaps into a S3 object storage out on AWS. When this is installed, it's installed as infrastructure as a service. So we work with AWS to automatically deploy and configure the entities. So if you're doing an all-in cloud, we would deploy and configure the Spectrum Protect Plus server and the vSnap. There's robust reporting where we can see what's going on both in the installation as well as in the product itself. And once Spectrum Protect Plus server and vSnap are up and running, the customer then is going to manage the installation of updates as well as the everyday ins and outs of the Spectrum Protect Plus server. Back in June of 2019, we came out with our first offering in this space, and that was for your Spectrum Protect Plus version 10.1.3. The major difference in that was that that was a hybrid only approach, so your Spectrum Protect Plus server would have been on premise. There is a deployment guide which will walk you through step by step what I'm talking about and what I show in these additional videos here, where I actually go through an installation both in an existing VPC and a new VPC. So what this offering is that Spectrum Protect Plus, the vSnap storage, and optionally the Spectrum Protect Plus server resources can now be purchased on AWS and deployed into the AWS cloud. What this is not a backup as a service. It is a push button automated deployment, but after that we turn over the day-to-day management to the end user themselves. Now, since we did our original offering last year, we have had two updates to the Spectrum Protect Plus server. This is version 10.1.4 and 10.1.5. And so I've listed here the different features that were upgraded in those specific releases. There's also YouTubes that talk about details of these specific releases. When it comes to purchasing and pricing of the Spectrum Protect Plus solution in AWS, the customer is going to bring their own license for Spectrum Protect Plus server. And this license can be purchased through the Passport Advantage. The options for Passport Advantage include either being part of a storage suite, or they could purchase it standalone. Now, one thing to note is that when the Spectrum Protect Plus server is installed for an all-in-cloud AWS solution, it will have a temporary 30-day license associated with it. So the user will have to go into the Spectrum Protect Plus console and register a Spectrum Protect Plus license before the 30 days is up. The customer also has to pay for the Amazon resources, and so this includes the servers that the vSnap and Spectrum Protect Plus server might run on, the storage, the optional S3 bucket, the Elastic IPs, the Bastion host, and anything else that's required to run this environment. Spectrum Protect Plus, the approximate pricing is about $2,000 perpetually or $60 per month for 10 VMs. And then depending upon other options you have out there, whether it's front-end or back-end licensing inside of the suite, those will have different options available. And if you are a Spectrum Protect Plus seller, the compensation for this is the same as if you were selling it standalone in a customer's on-premise location. So when you go to plan this installation, you do want to look at our Spectrum Protect Plus blueprints and sizers. This is going to help you with recommendations about the architecture, as well as the size of the vSnap that you'll need out there. And it'll also help you determine, for instance, if you want to do deduplication and so forth. So once you run that sizing tool, you will simply take the outputs from that and enter it directly into the Amazon Web Services while you're going through the deployment. There's a place that'll actually ask you for the server repository size, and so you'll take your sizing information and enter it directly there. Now, one nice thing about the AWS deployment is that when it comes to an instant type, we've figured out for you the best instant types out there, so you can kind of select from that list the appropriate instant type. And so that takes a lot of the guesswork out of the type of hardware and performance that you'll need out there. Okay, let's take a more technical look at this solution. So when we talk about the all-in cloud, we are talking about having both our Spectrum Protect Plus server as well as our vSnap, which is basically our repository, our storage pool, sit inside of the AWS cloud. And this is going to be the same location as the applications that we're protecting, your Oracles, your SQLs, your DB2s, your MongoDBs. And so you can see this gives us a couple of great use cases. The first use case is that you can do your normal data protection from the Spectrum Protect Plus server and the vSnap, backing up these different SQL and DB2 and MongoDB and Oracle databases. You can do reuse. So if for some reason you need to spin up a second instance of an Oracle database for testing, then you could simply take a copy out of the vSnap server and spin it up directly into AWS. So that's an easy reuse case, as well as, of course, restore. If something happened to your Oracle DB, you can restore it directly from that vSnap, which is also sitting on AWS. And then a third case is you can set up a service level agreement inside of Spectrum Protect Plus. In fact, we'll set one up automatically for you if you request an S3 bucket. And this will send copies of the data out to the S3 bucket for longer term retention. And since the S3 buckets are usually based on less expensive storage than your vSnap repositories, that's a good way to save money there. Okay, so this was the all-in cloud solution, and this is the solution in this version of the AWS deployment. One thing I didn't mention as a use case is this disaster recovery. If you did have a disaster and wanted to restore everything into the cloud, including your Spectrum Protect Plus server, you could go ahead and do an all-in cloud deployment and have a DR environment ready to go and start recovering the data that's needed to keep your operation up and running. Okay, the second scenario is hybrid. In this case, on-premise here, we have the Spectrum Protect Plus server and a vSnap that goes with that. And so this would be protecting the customer's on-site applications or virtual machines. In addition, we have another vSnap server sitting out on AWS. And for this vSnap server, we'd be backing up the databases that are residing in AWS. Obviously, this is going to be a more rapid backup than trying to send these database backups across the network back to the on-premise site. So with this case, we can do a couple things. One, we can replicate the two vSnaps between each other so that you could have a copy of your on-premise data also being stored in the cloud and vice versa. You can reuse the data that you're backing up here to create test cases or restore damaged databases or other applications into the cloud. And then, of course, you can also send copies of the data out to an S3 bucket for long-term retention. So when we look at these use cases, we've covered these here in the previous screen. So when you go to actually deploy Spectrum Protect Plus inside of AWS, once you've decided where your Spectrum Protect Plus server is going to be, is it going to be in the cloud or is it going to be on-premise? The next thing you need to decide is, are you going to deploy this into an existing VPC, virtual private cloud, or are you going to have the deployment create a new VPC to deploy it into? So if you check out the two demos I did, you'll see the slight differences between these two deployments. The biggest difference here, if you deploy into an existing VPC, you have to have an existing Bastion server out on your AWS available. And the newly deployed vSnap will be registered into the Spectrum Protect Plus server automatically. So if you are going into a new VPC and you're having AWS create this VPC as part of the deployment, if you're going all in cloud, then the Spectrum Protect Plus vSnap will be registered to the SPP server automatically. However, if you're doing a hybrid and you want to hook that vSnap that's in the cloud up to an on-premise SPP server, you'll have to do that manually after the VPC has been created. So when we have AWS deploy into a new VPC, AWS will build a new environment that includes VPCs, subnets, NAT gateways, security groups, Bastion servers, and all the other infrastructure that's required. When we deploy Spectrum Protect Plus in AWS, we use CloudFormations to make that job easier. And an AWS CloudFormation is basically an easy way to create and manage a collection of related AWS resources. And so when you go to provision them and update them, they're done in a predictable, orderly way. For Spectrum Protect Plus, we have two main CloudFormation templates. The first one is going to be your existing VPC. The second one is a new VPC. And then we have four nested CloudFormation templates: create new VPC, create new Bastion, create Spectrum Protect Plus server, and deploy vSnap. So on the right-hand side here, if you do a new VPC, you'll see that we actually create one main CloudFormation template and then four nested underneath that, because for a new VPC, we will create a Bastion server, a VPC, a Spectrum Protect Plus server, and a vSnap. If you are going into an existing VPC, we'll have one main CloudFormation template, and then we'll just deploy the nested create Spectrum Protect Plus stack and the vSnap stack. As AWS goes through the deployment, it will prompt you for different things, and it will have different inputs into the template. And so some of the things that it'll prompt you for are, for instance, the username and password you want to use for the vSnap server, and the username and password either for an existing Spectrum Protect Plus server or that you want to use for your new Spectrum Protect Plus server. Some of these other pieces will be created automatically, with the exception of a Bastion server. If you're deploying into an existing environment, then you'll have to already have that Bastion server set up. This new offering is slightly different than our offering from last year in deployment methods. A couple new items you can select in this version is you can choose a vSnap pool type. This will help with performance. And so this EBS type will give you the selection of SC1, GB2, or ST1. Likewise, you'll have an option to dedupe or not dedupe the Spectrum Protect Plus vSnap. And you'll have the option to automatically create or utilize an S3 bucket to copy the data out of the vSnap to. Also, when you select this option, we will update the service level agreement that we create to reflect the scheduled copy to S3 bucket. On the left-hand side, you'll see the template if you were doing an all-in-cloud deployment into a new VPC. So here's your new VPC that'll be created. Here you can see the Spectrum Protect Plus server. Here you can see the vSnap server. Versus if you were doing an all-in-cloud deployment into an existing VPC, where we would just add in the Spectrum Protect Plus server and the vSnap server, and optionally the S3 buckets in both cases. Here's what those templates look like for a hybrid deployment. Once again, with an existing or new VPC. On the left-hand side, you would already have your Spectrum Protect Plus server installed. You would do that on your own. And then the deployment would create the vSnap if it was into an existing VPC here on the left-hand side, versus if it was being deployed into a new VPC on the right-hand side. So these templates are kind of nice because you can see the different subnets and how everything works together there. The Bastion host plays an important role in the Spectrum Protect Plus deployment and running. Basically, your AWS Bastion host is going to enable you to securely connect to your Linux instances in your virtual private cloud. And so it does not expose your environment to the internet, and it allows you to access the other instances in that VPC through your SSH connections on Linux. Now, this is configured with security groups to provide a fine-grained ingress control. The Bastion host, remember, is going to be created as part of a new VPC. If you are utilizing an existing VPC, then you have to specify the Bastion server in that configuration. So one must already exist. For technical requirements, your AWS account has to have the following resources. And if it doesn't, then you can request the service level increase out there. These resources include the virtual private clouds. You have to have one of those, whether you're using the all-on-cloud or the hybrid solution. Elastic IP address is also one for each of those solutions. For security groups, you're going to need 2 for the all-on-cloud solution versus 1 for the hybrid solution. IAM roles, you need up to 3. Instances, you need up to 3 for the all-on-cloud and up to 2 for hybrid. HDD EBS volumes, up to 16. SSD EBS volumes, you need 9 for the all-on-cloud and 5 for the hybrid. And then the NAT gateways, subnets, S3 buckets, internet gateways, and auto-scaling groups are the same for both of them. You will also need a key pair, and you can either use an existing key pair or you can create one specific for the Spectrum Protect Plus. The IAM permissions to deploy AWS CloudFormation templates are administrator access, and that's managed within IAM itself. You may choose to use custom policies with more restrictions if you decide so. You also have to have a VPN tunnel to establish bidirectional communications between the existing VPC and the Spectrum Protect Plus server if you're doing a hybrid solution. When we set up an EC2, the server instance is configured for a vSnap component. According to the Spectrum Protect blueprints, we require that each vSnap server EC2 instance have 50 gigabytes of Amazon Elastic Block storage, an EBS SSD volume, a dynamic number of EBS SC1 volumes, and log and cache disks as defined by the blueprint that correspond with that vSnap size. For each Spectrum Protect Plus server EC2 instance, you can see here what those requirements are. And we've based this off of a R5A.2x large recommendation inside of the Spectrum Protect Plus blueprints. Like I said earlier, before you run this deployment, you will want to utilize the blueprints and the sizer. It will also help you understand your Spectrum Protect Plus server environment. So you definitely want to run that ahead of time, and those outputs will translate directly to the instant type that you need to choose. And that instant type will be based upon not only the vSnap repository size, but also dedupe, if you've enabled that for the vSnap or not. As you go through the deployment in AWS, you can monitor it with Cloudwatch. And Cloudwatch is basically a monitoring service for AWS cloud resources and applications that are run in AWS. And part of this Spectrum Protect Plus offering is to enable you to go into Cloudwatch and figure out what's going on. So here's just some examples of using the CloudFormation stack or using an instant ID to monitor those groups. Okay, so what are the actual deployment steps when you're ready to go into AWS and kick this off? First of all, I recommend checking out the deployment guide. Step 1, you're going to sign into your AWS account. Step 2, you're going to subscribe to the IBM Spectrum Protect Plus AMI. Step 3, you're actually going to launch the CloudFormation template. And it's going to be in this template where you do things like choose if you're doing an existing VPC or a new VPC, where you choose which version, which I would assume would be the latest version of Spectrum Protect Plus software you want to use, where you choose if you're doing a hybrid or an all-in-cloud installation, and where you provide other things like your key pairs and so forth. So the final step is to go in and finalize your Spectrum Protect Plus server and vSnap are connected and working. Make sure the SLA is out there. However, if you did a new VPC and you did the hybrid selection where your Spectrum Protect Plus server is going to be on-premise, you will have to manually define the vSnap to the Spectrum Protect Plus server, which is not a big deal, but that does have to be done. And the reason for that is AWS could not do that because your vSnap and your VPN were not yet set up. So we are currently deploying Spectrum Protect Plus 10.1.5. As new releases come out, you can go into the management console of Spectrum Protect Plus and update the new releases. That's not a problem, but it will be the customer who does those updates. On YouTube, we've got a couple of videos of actually deploying the Spectrum Protect Plus solutions inside of AWS, so check those out depending on what you choose. Also, you can check out the deployment guide. I've put that link here. Okay, thank you very much.